financial industry in London as we learn how to deal with the regulations and make the banks safer. So he's saying, I think his argument here is that because we have stronger regulations, it means that the banks can't do what they would want to do, which is to push the boundaries and be really reckless. And by forcing the banks to be safer, what it means is that the banks are less likely to have an '08 style meltdown. Which again, he might be saying that the amount of regulation we have now is perfect and we don't need more of it. But then we won't be able to compete with the USA and Singapore. But that would be kind of adding words to words he hasn't, adding words into his mouth basically, because he hasn't actually said that. But it's just a very interesting take from a guy who is one of the, I think he's the head guy of Barclays in the UK or something. He's a very senior guy in Barclays. He does admit that money and jobs have moved to the from the UK as a result of Brexit, but says the impact has been modest. Yes, there have been some jobs that are going to Europe that otherwise would have been in the UK, but it's in the hundreds. Barclays employs some 50,000 people in the UK, roughly 20,000 people outside of the UK, and 10,000 in the US. So you can see that Barclays hub is really in the UK. Some amount of capital that has moved, but London is still the main centre for Barclays. His message is that the UK should do everything it can to foster trust and good relations with the UK, but not at the cost of UK becoming uncompetitive with the bigger fish in the global capital pool. So I think what his kind of take is that we want to stay where we are when it comes to regulations. That this is fine, because if the EU start increasing regulations on banks, that means that the UK would also have to do that to keep in regulatory alignment. If we wanted a deal on services and things like that. So I think what he's trying to say is, with the level we're at is fine, and so that's why he's saying focus on these other places, the US and Singapore. At least that's kind of my take on this one. It might not be the best take, but you don't come here for the best take. Let's be honest. So it is strange. Maybe he's trying to get the UK to create service deals with more service deals with the US and Asia, so that Barclays can compete in those markets, as well as in the EU, because Barclays has already set up shop in the EU through subsidiaries and other things. But again, this is really interesting stuff here. It's not everyone's favourite industry, but the financial, well, you can say that again after 2008 especially, but the financial services sector employs 1.1 million people, with 2/3 of them outside London. It is nearly 100 times more economically important than fishing and pays a whopping 11% of all taxes. But I don't remember the fishing industry crashing the economy in '08, buddy. And the points he makes are important here, but obviously he's going to talk about how the financial services were completely ignored by Brexit negotiations last year. Fishing was apparently, the main goal, but obviously we know that's not the case. It was also almost totally ignored in the Brexit negotiations. Access to the EU markets enjoyed for decades ended in January. About £1 trillion in capital and assets, up to 10,000 jobs have left the UK industry as firms set up within the EU, set up EU subsidiaries. Big numbers, but in global financial terms, erosion rather than exodus. And so what he's kind of, I don't know if this is the point he's making, is that we've seen firms and jobs move out of the UK, but this isn't the mass exodus that people feared, which isn't the best argument, to be honest. It's like, yeah, I punched you in the face, but I didn't shoot you, so it's not as bad. And you're just like, well, we were promised that things would, these things wouldn't happen. So I think this is not the best argument from this person here, the Barclays man. Critical industry. Catherine McGuinness, head of policy at the City of London Corporation, said that while financial services didn't get much airtime in Brexit negotiations, they were better placed because they started preparing years ago, which is something we'll talk about specifically with Barclays and some of the other banks. We have been disappointed in the lack of focus on the financial profession services sector. That is a critical part of our economy, a critical part in itself for the jobs and tax it generates, because the UK is a financial country. We deal with a service. We're a service economy mainly, and so if the services take a hit, that's a large part of our economy. We are not a mainly manufacturing or agriculture economy. We are a service-based economy, and that's important for people to understand and realise. We have been disappointed in the lack of focus. We mentioned that, but the minute the referendum result was announced, the institutions started planning how they would be able to serve their customers in whatever circumstances developed. She also agreed with Mr. Staley that there is no need or desire for widespread deregulation to create what some have called a Singapore in the Thames. One reason why people want to come and do business here is because they trust the regulations. We're not hearing any great demand for a bonfire regulation, but we do not need to but we do need to look at how we can keep influencing and working with global standards to meet global challenges. So they were kind of saying we want to move away from EU kind of regulations in a sense and look at global stuff, global standards, but they don't want us to, kind of move back from where we are now regulation wise, which again is, very interesting from these people who you think would push for deregulation so they could make more money in the short term, but perhaps these people are intelligent enough to see that the long-term health of their businesses, this isn't the boom-bust cycle isn't the best for them, because eventually one government's going to come in and they might make some major changes after a bust. So who knows? So he makes some more interesting arguments here. So just like tech, one of those global challenges is surely climate change, and Mr. Staley is convinced London can become a major global hub for green finance. He says these ideas are currently where the understanding of the impact of the internet was nearly 30 years ago. So he's saying that we're understanding the challenges of the green revolution, I guess, just like people understood how important the internet was 30 years ago. I think that's what he's saying here. So he's saying that Britain was a global leader when it comes to the internet, and we also want to be a global leader when it comes to green energy. Climate today is like technology was in '95. If you think about it, all the Amazons, the Googles didn't really exist in 1995, and now it dominates 40% of the economy. I think it's a fair argument that dealing with climate and dealing with the environment is in the same position now. Which again, I kind of agree with him somewhat here. Confident and controversial words for the boss of a bank that counts climate change activists as regular attendees at its shareholder meetings, thanks to its involvement in financial fossil fuel projects. I mean, that kind of doesn't make sense. If Barclays are involved in financing fossil fuel projects, you would not see climate change activists there, unless they're just there to for exam or something. But that's a curious thing about money. You would think it's hard to create new products out of it. I mean, it's not. But it happens. The ability to raise money in dollars on EU markets was the key new thing that propelled London to worldwide significance in the post-war period. Creating new products out of pools of subprime mortgages almost destroyed the world's financial system. And I think what he's saying here is that we need stronger regulations to protect the banks from their own worst instincts, which I 100% agree with. Harnessing the international demand for financing climate-based projects could be the next big thing, and hopefully a good thing. So he's saying that Barclays wants to be there to invest. So basically, I think what he's saying is he thinks the UK is going to be a world leader in green energy, just like we were when it comes to technology. That's something I disagree with him on. I think when it comes to green energy, we're going to see countries like China and maybe some other climate-oriented countries lead the charge on that. And you could say China's one of the worst polluters in the world. That's true, because they manufacture so much amongst other things, but they are moving more towards green. And so I think China will be the world leader when it comes to green energy, or a world leader. The USA may become that depending on who's the next president of the United States. I don't think it'll be the UK that leads that charge. So I think his gamble is wrong here. But that's just that's just my opinion. It's hard to reinvent a fish or a sheep. Unlike fishing and farming, which got a lot of political attention, and whose businesses are really struggling to adjust to UK financial firms like Barclays seem confident they can adapt to a post-Brexit world. The difference here is Barclays have a lot of money and a lot of money for experts and consultants to figure out what's going on. The fish and meat industry weren't told what the hell was going on, and then they realised that, we don't have quotas or tariffs, but then they realised, oh crap, we have customs, which, is really hard to deal with. There's the difference there. As Mr. Staley says, you can't tax good ideas. I mean, okay, he's an American. He comes up with these sort of cliches and stuff. The UK government thought that the powerful financial sector could look after itself. On this evidence, it seems like it might have been right. We're only, 2 months out? It's going to be hard to see the impact yet, especially when it comes to services still wanting to do business with the EU and set up new contracts. We'll see then what's going on. Sunak will certainly hope so. No Chancellor of the Exchequer in living memory has needed to tax revenue more. Okay, so what we can see from his arguments is that he wants the UK to focus more on other markets within the world. He wants us to compete with Asia and the USA, but he does not want us to do that through deregulation, which seems contradictory because of the amount of deregulation within the Asian countries specifically, and it's very strange. And if we look at the key points of Brexit, you can see thousands of Britons told in the EU that their bank accounts will be closed. So you got where is the list of banks? Lloyds, Barclays, and Coutts. I've never heard of them. Have informed retail and business customers that they will lose access to their accounts before or when the Brexit transition period ends. So that just happened. We've seen, Barclays move 170 billion pounds over to Dublin amid no deal Brexit fears. Obviously, we know that didn't happen, but at the same time, this deal does not help financial services. Hence, why they moved money out of the UK, because one of the four pillars of the EU, which is free movement of capital, as well. So we don't know how difficult in this new kind of post-Brexit world would it be for Barclays to move money into the EU. What would there be any charges or anything like that, or would it be fine because they have subsidiaries within the EU? And we've got here Barclays to move jobs to the UK to Frankfurt ahead of Brexit. So obviously Frankfurt wants to, Barclays, sorry, wants to compete within the EU through their subsidiaries and all that stuff. That's why they've moved jobs there. But at the same time, they still want the UK to be their financial base, which again is very interesting considering we've cut ourselves off from one of the biggest markets in the world. Hence why I found his argument really interesting, that he wants the UK not to chase the EU when it comes to regulations, but he doesn't want us to deregulate, if that makes sense. So he wants basically regulators to protect Barclays in this case against the worst instincts of Barclays Bank in this case. So I find his words very interesting. Very, very interesting. And I've said that several times now. That's how kind of bizarre this situation is, I guess, because you think a guy in this situation would be pushing for deregulation, so then they could compete and make more money. But at the same time, he understands how dangerous deregulation is, and I guess he does not want to see another version of 2008. So credit here, I guess, to Jez Staley, or I don't know how to pronounce his name. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.